Okay, so we are live on Facebook and YouTube. So let us begin our bi-weekly sutra discussion by paying respect and homage to the Buddha. Let us recite Namo Tassa 3 times together. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. I pay my respect and homage to him, the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the fully enlightened Buddha. Okay, dear Venerable sirs and dear Dhamma friends, so today we are having our 83rd bi-weekly sutra discussion. And so today we don't have a particular sutra, but we are going to discuss, or maybe it's an open question. I will be reading out that question for you. But before we begin the discussion, I would like to introduce our Venerable Bhantes to our audience. First, okay, so Venerable Bhante Jayasara, he is joining the discussion. You said from New Jersey today, or New Jersey? And then we have Venerable Tridao, he is joining the discussion from Florida. And we have Venerable Bhante Jinananda, he is joining the discussion from Ottawa, Canada. And then we have Venerable Bhante Sanat Vihari, he is joining the discussion from Los Angeles. Then we have Venerable Bhante Kusala. Normally he joins from Boston, but today you're joining the discussion from New Hampshire. Yes. And then we have Venerable Shanta Sobana. He's joining the discussion from Los Angeles. And of course, I myself is joining the discussion from Toronto, Canada. And so I would like to welcome all of you to our 83rd bi-weekly sutra discussion. I also would like to welcome our fellow friends who are here on Zoom platform and also who are watching this discussion live on Facebook and YouTube. So I have a very kind request from all of you from our Venerable Bhantes and also our Dhamma friends. If you can, please share this program on your social media timeline for the greater benefit of your friends, family members, as a way of giving the gift of Dhamma or sharing this gift of Dhamma for their own spiritual benefit. So today, as I said, actually I invited Bhante Bhikkhu Bodhi to join the discussion. He wanted to, but he's I think suffering from kind of flu, and he said if he recovers by today he will join us. But it seems he's still not feeling well, so he did not show up. I really wanted him to join because of this question asked by one of our Dhamma friends. Actually, he watches the program with so much respect and gratitude for all of us. And so he asked me this question, whether I could present this to you. And he said, "Dear Bhante, I have a question for you. Appreciate if you can discuss this in one of your bi-weekly Dhamma discussion with learned monks. Today, there is a lot of attention among intellectuals who are investigating the meaning of life on the non-dualistic nature of the mind and absolute truth. When you listen to famous philosophers like Eckhart Tolle, Rupert Spira, Moji, Osho, and Krishnamurti, often we have the feeling they have some level of enlightenment. They claim their I or me collapsed completely at one stage in their investigation. There is a YouTube channel dedicated to people to disclose how they dropped their ego, I or me, completely. Some of them have never heard of Buddha, but due to their own suffering, had looked for a way out and discovered that it is all in the mind. Buddha saying that chittena niyati logo or panchopadana khanda dukkha. It is not difficult to understand logically and scientifically that there is no permanent self, only a flux or changing nature. However, it is a challenge for someone to really comprehend this fully and make it a norm in daily life. Such a person will not personalize the physical or suffering from outsiders. The person who realizes absolute truth will be default will by default have metta, karuna, mudita to the entire world and need not specifically do loving kindness or other meditation. I know that Soham, or first stage of enlightenment, could be achieved by comprehensive understanding of non dualistic nature, Dasana Pahatata. I may be wrong in my understanding of the above facts. I would be grateful if you and other learned monks could provide some discussion on this with metta. So, it's a very fully loaded question, and it actually demands a lot of I don't know wisdom. I don't know how from where to start and what to say, but I think we understand. So I have named today's discussion uh, as the meaning or investigating the meaning of life and the non-dualistic nature of the mind and absolute truth. So, from your understanding, from your own experience, uh, I think maybe you could actually the friend, Dhamma friend who asked the question, it seems he's here too on Zoom platform, is listening. I see Venerable Tridao from Florida. What do you have to say?
Salutations to all of the most venerables. I just got off the plane 6 a.m. this morning from Santa Ana area, California, and then drove yesterday to Hollywood doing a 2-day counseling session to family members, and regretfully was not able to see Venerable Sanata Vihari and Bante Santa Shobana. So I'll try to make my trip again in October, mid-October, to come see you guys. Definitely a very cool place with the beach, Huntington Beach. The temperature drops quite quick out there. I like to, this was a very challenging, it it threw me off because there was no attachment of the access to insight, and I'm like, he's got to be testing me, because I didn't realize everyone else did or did not receive. I just got off the plane, so I'm just like, oh, today's the day he's testing me. So the accompanying sutta discussion, um this is tough, and this usually is for advanced students and not intermediate or beginning. And only in front of my screen is I see who is present here on the Zoom and don't know who is listening, and the level of understanding of our listeners. With an awareness to the practice of the non-self for myself, I will be using me, my, and I. And I do that often when I start touching this type of teaching, so that people know that the monk is aware of his own use of me, my, and I. So in order for Dhamma teachers to explain to the general public, we have to use conventional terminologies and vocabularies so that you understand where we're coming from. And because we lead by example, we must use the me, my, and I in a non-attached way. Non-attached way. Uh, Someone way back when I started my public life journey here on social media, they said, Bante, with respect, I'd like to ask you, non-attached. And then they asked the question and they concluded with a question and they said, "Thank you, venerable sir. I rejoice in your answer, non-attached." So everything that this particular student, 1 in a million, everything that the student asked, followed by a statement or comment, was also accompanied by the ending of non-attached. And I just put a big smile on my face when I lowered the message and I realized, well, they obviously got the non-attached part. What they're trying to say to me is they're not attached to me, and that there's no attachment here. The Buddha taught us that. The Buddha taught us not to be attached to anyone, any place, or anything. The me, my, I has a lot to do with that. Um, but so I want to deconstruct this for a second. What makes you who you are? Um, and because I don't know the listeners, I'll just use myself as an example. So back to the me, my, and I. So Ji Dao grew up a young, angry young man, ambitious, angry young man who didn't know how to love, who tried to love a couple times, failed, was attached onto family members, was attached to people, places, and things, tasted suffering, didn't like that too much, lost everything 3 times in my life, was homeless, got like kicked out of the house, ran away from home, all the crazy teenager stuff that everyone have heard and experienced or have seen, that I did. And it was awesome. It was suffering was awesome. Losing everything was awesome because the remaking of Jidao, the remaking of this particular human, you lose everything when you hit rock bottom. There's only one way up, is right back up. Once you hit that, you just somewhere down the line you have to go back up. Okay, if you don't, it's another different problem. So then I garnered the million follower thing on TikTok as an experiment. So then that does something to the me, the my, and the I, the ego. Then the Vinaya keeps me quite equilibrium, to be careful with the social media power that one has, and one could say the injuries that one could inflict, or the beauty that one can bring to the general public. So I thought, and then now we have existence of AI, so it can take all of this away. AI can rewrite the Bible. AI can rewrite the Nikayas. So AI is more powerful than any one of us. So and then I asked myself, I'm like, well, what happened if AI wipe you out, Chidao, and you don't have those millions followers anymore? And I said to myself, that's okay too. It doesn't matter anymore. We're all just visitors here. And I'm just a visitor here. And for the impact that I have made, hopefully it carries on. Yeah, you have to lose things in your life. Renunciation. When I went through all these things in my childhood years, I'm 37, when I went through these very trying stages in my 20s, the fact that it was so heartbroken to lose everything, to live on the streets, to have to live with my best friend Buddy, to struggle, to have severe anxiety, not knowing what tomorrow hold, what to eat, who to call, and the fortification of the ego that I'm not going to call my family, I'm not going to ask for help, because the ego does that. But through it all, becoming a monk was even more suffering, because then it's like, it's no different than military psychology, where they break you down and they build you back up, but you also break you down and you build yourself back up, with or without the presence of senior teachers. And sometimes the Theravadan senior teachers, they're very strict, and they're not going to pay attention to your feelings. They're going to put you through some of the most rigorous tests of you, yourself, everything about you will be deconstructed in accordance to the practice of Paticca Samuppada. And so I lost everything, and then when I hit rock bottom, my grandmother. So when you lose everything, you have to lose everything. You have to put yourself. You have to create the causes and conditions for you, the human, to lose everything, give everything away. Jesus said that. So if we have Christian listeners, Jesus says, if you want to follow me, sell everything to the poor and then follow me. Why would these great philosophers uh, and top religious leaders would say that? There, you have to investigate why. It's our job to have a hypothesis of the why. So for those who have lost everything, knows that there's nothing to guard. The more you have, the more you have to guard material things, gold, money, uh, multiple girlfriends, two wives. We have that in Southeast Asia. People have a lot of gold. People have, in Vietnamese we call it the primary lady, the secondary lady, and the cutie. Three. And then you have to remember the lies. You have to remember the lies that you told to the primary, to the secondary, and the cutie. And it's like, think about it. I'm being real to everyone here. I've witnessed it. I'm counseling these families, holding the precepts, giving the precepts. And so when I'm sitting in front of these people, I'm like, you have attached on to all these things. You created all these things to lose. You accumulated, so you think one day you're not going to lose these things. How well is it working out trying to control the cutie? How well is it working out trying to control the secondary wife? Not working out, right? So the Buddha says, when you are attached onto family, loved ones, if you had 40 family members, you have 40 sets of problem. You have, and each 40 of them, I have very big family: the Nguyen family, the Tran family, and then the Huang's family. There are people who recognize me in Nha Trang Beach, and I have no idea who they are. They know my family name, Gubi, and I'm like, what? Who are you? So, um, but I don't attach on to any of them. I know the drama. I stay away from it so that I can be here to serve the people. So I think the first thing to do this would be to renounce, to let go. All of us had to do that because you won't know how it feels. Telling you intellectually about conventional truth and non-dual, good, bad, this tastes good, this tastes bad, preference. Duality has to do with preference. Awareness of preference, get rid of duality. Absolute truth is the three marks of existence. But you I understand that. But we teachers would ask you, have you seen it in yourself? Have you experienced uh duality or non-duality? Everyone can say, yes, I can experience duality, because a bad apple and a good apple, a tasty apple and a nice car and an ugly car, right? Everyone gets that. But then when we ask you about non-duality, that's where you're like, the disappearance of what, the dissolving of the self. I don't exist. What doesn't exist? So I think the first step, the recommendation here, is to start the process of letting go. And when you start to see your life becoming simpler, then you start to realize what peace is like. And you stop having preference, and you stop controlling other people, stop controlling things outside of you. Like, there's a hurricane right now here in Florida. To my right, there's rain and all sorts of stuff. A lot of people try to control that. They try to control family members. They try to control their money. They can try to control identity theft. There's so much things we try to control. Life has become complicated. Bante Saranapala recently went to a wedding, and so every wedding he goes to is like, I swear, it's like $1 million wedding. And when he held the microphone and he started giving recommendation and advice and a path to these two beautiful couple to live, the first thing he said was, live simply. Live simply. And that is the most beautiful and most simplest thing anyone can tell you here today. Because why? because I think all of us teachers, I'm a young teacher, I'm just a junior, will tell you that everything happens after we leave the wedding. Then when the orange is not there anymore, right, and the black and white go home, complications start to arise. The next day you're gonna get bills coming in, money, kids, planning, family, paternal side, maternal side, wife side, husband side, and how you use the Dhamma to start, easing that easily in a non-attached way, and telling them in a non-attached, mom, don't attach onto me, mom. You got to let me go so I can be with my husband. You're like, mom, you got to let me go so I can be with my wife. Don't be attached onto me. When you teach it, when you practice it, when you meditate, when you show up to the temple and you get constant reminder um, of non-attachment, slowly you understand non-dualism. Slowly you understand not me, not mine, not I. If husband and wife practice the right way, in the suttas they have said that when they die, the the propensity chance, potential and likely chance of them reuniting in the same realm is high. So if husband and wife practice the Dhamma together in a non-attached way, I love you, you know that I love you. But if you die tomorrow, then I will realize that karma took you, and there was nothing that I could have done. It was beyond my control. You and I are subject to suffering. You and I are subject to change. You and I really are that we can control each other. Three marks of existence. That is the absolute truth. Any husband, wife, mom, dad, children, and kids, aunt and uncle say that to each other. Practice the first noble truth. I see suffering in me, I see suffering in you. So therefore, there would be no attachment. Because when you see that already, anything you do thereafter, which is attachment, will stack on additional suffering of more pain, sorrow, and misery, lamentation. So I just wanted to start off with that as basis foundation for the conversation ahead. This is very broad. This could take months to continue talk. I can talk on this for months actually, but again, no different than any of us telling you about Nibbana. Like, this apple tastes really good. It's green. It's green wise from Publix. It's $4.99. But no matter how, we tell you how crispy it tastes, you got to go out there and get the apple yourself to taste Nibbana, to taste the sweetness of the apple. So we'll start off with that. Thank you so much for being patient, and thank you for all the senior teachers for letting me go first.
Thank you very much, Rizal. Aklas, it is a very deep question, a broad question. There's so much to share with, and so today we are just having this discussion to share our own understanding or perception regarding this particular question: the meaning of life, non-duality of the mind, and the absolute truth. So thank you so much for sharing your words of wisdom. Next, I see Bante Jinananda from Ottawa. What's in your mind, Bante J?
Thank you very much, Bante Sanakala, for the opportunity, and greetings to all venerables and Dhamma friends. You can see here in the discussion always. Yes, the question your friend put forward is really interesting. Instead of sticking us to a particular sutta, he or she has taken us to a very broader question, which is very good, because it's a challenge for us to give a summarized version of what the life is with truth, and how do we find the meaning of life in line with the Buddha's teaching in a non-dualistic way. These are some of the, I think, very interesting questions we all should get into. So my appreciation goes to the friend who actually put forward this question. To me, that your friend has been actually reading the Tripitaka because of some statement he made or she made in the explanation, Panchupadana Kanda and all these things. Yeah, Itten and Niyati Loco. So these show us that the friend has been actually in real investigation in life. Yes, the question seems deep, but the Buddha's way of going to deeper level of mind is simple things. It's the first thing we need to understand. The last discussion was about the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, in that the Buddha talks about the way to reach to non-dualistic absolute truth by avoiding extremes, by sticking to a middle way, which is the Noble Eightfold Path. I would say that that the same thing we have to address here. Yes, when we talk about the truth, in the first place, we can separate. We can divide the truth into two as mundane truth, the conventional truth, which is agreed by people over the course of time, and the other truth is absolute truth, which is not decided by anyone and everyone. It is the truth, absolute truth, fundamental truth. So we need to understand this from our experience. When you talk about the dukkha, in essence, it is a dukkha that apparently experienced by everyone. In other words, dukkha is not relevant to a particular person or particular group, but it is affected to each and every living beings. So that is called absolute truth. Absolute truth is always not based on personal, individual perception. It is always relevant to everyone. So the conventional truth is because here it is hot, but the monks and friends who are sitting with us online may be not having that warm weather. So I say that I feel hot. It is the truth. It is truth relevant to me. Likewise, the the conventional truth is always based on the personal experiences. So how do we find the real meaning of life in this conventional truth? To be able to reach to absolute, because the Buddha's intention is to find out the absolute truth through conventional truth, and he, as the Bodhisattva, he found it, and his message to us is for the same purpose. I think, as Venerable Tudau hinted many times from his speech, we want to be three things should be understood in order to reach to this level, at least to a surface level of it. That is anicca, dukkha, and anatta. Impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and non-self. I, me, and myself is another way to tell it, but I would stick to these three terms because they are very wide and broader. Anicca. It shows that everything is impermanent. Can we look at the entire experience of us with this term in mind? Is everything impermanent? Then we can understand that our feeling, our perception, the way we look at the world and everything outside of us, yes, they are changing from moment to moment. We can understand that. So then is every changing phenomena bring us suffering? That question could be asked from us. Sometimes it's not, because, for example, we had a very unpredictable, difficult situation here with with the fail of the air condition. Now that is that the change, impermanence of warm weather bring us cool weather, which is okay. So every impermanent thing doesn't bring us suffering. So that the changing, the impermanence, fluctuation of things could also bring us happiness, which is sometimes relative, sometimes not. So anyway, based on that theory, we have to understand that impermanence should be understood from our own experience, and then some sort of impermanence bring us joy, some sort of changes in situation, in thoughts, in perception bring us suffering. And when you look at the entire scope of impermanence, you reach to a level where there is no suffering and happiness also. It's called equanimity. That is the highest point. That's from that point of view, you look at whether this is suffering. Then actually unsatisfactoriness is also another realization under this observation you get, because dukkha is the dukkha means you realize the real nature of everything. Then you come to a conclusion that if everything is impermanent and if everything under unsatisfactoriness, why do I attach to things? Why do I look into things? It doesn't mean that you come to a conclusion that you don't do anything. Yes, you do everything under the basis of compassion, because when you realize the three characteristics of every phenomena, your mind bends towards compassion, kindness, and you don't want to hang on to I, me, myself at all, because you realize that it is only a projection of our mind. It is only a kind of thought of your mind, so that the appearance of you is compassion, kindness, and also patience and that sort of thing. So I think if we are investigating the meaning of life in line with the Buddha's teaching, this is what I find myself, and I think the Buddha sounds the same thing in his teaching. And this is also, again, absolute truth, because when you come to absolute truth, you do not have any grudge, any unpleasant feeling in your mind. So this is one window of the non-dualistic life with absolute truth. Uh, as you say, Bhante, rightly, this is a very difficult question, though it is simple. So in answering these questions, we have to stick to certain way, but it's so deep. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. But of course, actually, the non-dualism that Raja philosophy is a part of the Hinduism, and it's called the Advaitavada, the concept of non-dualism. So that is basically they consider the Brahma, or also that's a creator God, and then the Brahman, the Atman, like so who have been separated. So eventually, all the Brahman goes back to the original form of let's say the Creator God. So that is kind of like it's not it's inseparable kind of concept they are presenting. So that's a different concept. And so now we are discussing how Buddhism thinks about, or what does it mean in Buddhist teachings and non-dualism or absolute truth and the meaning of life. And what you, Bhante Jananand and Herbert Trudeau pointed out is, of course, is a part. This is how we understand the non-dualistic mind with the absolute truth, we virtually find in the meaning of life. So next we see Venerable Bhante Kusala from Boston, but this time from New Hampshire. Bhante Kusala, what's in your mind?
Thank you, Bhante. It started raining heavily here in New Hampshire. I'm by the Squam Lake here. And if any one of you has trouble hearing, please increase your volume. And I am speaking as best as I could, and I believe you can hear.
Yeah, we can hear very clearly.
Thank you, Bhante. Yes, and thank you for that explanation on duality that is connected with Advaita from the Hindu perspective. So this is getting extra complicated for us as we try to unpack this question. Like Bhante Chindananda mentioned, we are grateful that this question was raised, and we are also grateful that people are taking interest in these discussions and bringing ideas to us, and we can actually now put our sutras that we have discussed before, and we can bring these to the table and respond to a question like this, because now many of us have heard many of the sutras. So yes, this is quite progressive and very much a positive outcome of this discussion. So the topics this person raised about non-dualistic nature of the mind, absolute truth, and the experiences shared by various philosophers and spiritual teachers, these are very profound and resonates in many ways with Buddhism, particularly those relate to the nature of the self and path to enlightenment. I remember listening to Adya Shanti when about 12 years ago, when I was a student in the University of Trento, Italy, finding my words to explain to the students there what non-self means. And those students responded to me. They came to the place where I was living to meditate, and I tried to explain non-self teachings to them. And they said it's easier to believe that there is a self than trying to understand that there is no self. I never forget that experience. They were very interested, but at the same time, they were just willing to accept the conventional belief that there is a self. So, but I tried. And about non-dualism, I have tried to break it down to pieces so that we look at each piece separately. And he or she mentioned non-dualism and absolute truth. So in Buddhist practice, there is this understanding about mind's true nature and the reality. These are not inherently dualistic. We experience the world with the mind, and this is what we learn from Chittedaniya Loko, that mind is the core in simple terms. This is also found in the first verse of Dhammapada. Mind made the experiences. Everything that we experience, we don't experience an outside world, except what we experience through the mind is what we label and relabel and recycle and rethink and perceive and conceptualize and speak. And each and every one of us has different mental worlds, and that is unique to each and every one of us. So that is also reality. That is what we experience as reality. And many non-dualistic teachers discuss about that in that way, especially focusing on the mind. But the terminology that Buddhism uses may differ from what those teachers use. The concept of non-self, anatta, this is a very fundamental teaching in Buddhism, especially after hearing the first sermon of the Buddha. The 5 ascetics need to hear the non-teachings, Anatta Lakkana Sutta, for them to really penetrate into the teaching, to the truth, Dhamma. And that is when they all became enlightened. So you can see how deeply rooted the concept of self is and non-self is in the Dhamma that the Buddha taught to the world from the very beginning till the end. He emphasized on this teaching. But the concept that there is a permanent, unchanging self is an illusion. It is subject to change and it's not permanent. So this may be the concept that they try to describe as collapse of self, collapse of I or me, that the person who asked the question mentioned. In Buddhist practice, we continue to realize truth through practice. And so for us, we need to look at the realization more with the practice, that we must have a practice consistent practice for us to realize these things. Upon listening to YouTube, I don't think people gain so much from it. You will hear it and you will drop it, and without the actual practice, you may not even remember what you heard before. Many people do listen to many monks, many teachers out there on internet, and they never get to practice because they lead very busy lives, and this is very unfortunate. And I pray that many people actually do get to
Makes me
practice
smile,
Dharma
Seth.
and pause.
Sorry, I
and
can't really talk right now.
experience it, so that whatever the terminology it is that you are hearing, you know with conviction in your own heart that this is the Dhamma, this is the truth, and this is what we need to hear, and there is no need to hear any further. There is no need to complicate our mind with too many terms. So the realization of this non-dual nature or absolute truth is it's not an intellectual understanding only. It is profound experiential insight. You hear me saying profound experiential insight. There must be a cessation in your experience through Dhamma with preconditions that you prepare yourself to experience a cessation. Then only you do understand what it means. Upon emerging from that cessation, you know for sure that this is whatever it is. This teacher tried to explain this, and the Buddha did explain exactly this. So there's you who is your own teacher telling that this is how it works, and you then have more saddha, more faith in your own practice and understanding. So, and the realization that way is systematic, and we need practice of mindfulness, samadhi, that is concentration, and development of wisdom. Develop sila, samadhi, prajna. All of these need to be, combined and be together for the practice to be. No matter what teacher you hear, we learned from Satya Jatila Sutta. Let me quote from the Satya Jatila Sutta. I have it in my notes. There was a time that King Kosala was visiting the Buddha, and 7 ascetics passed by, and the King Kosala happened to ask the Buddha, is it possible to say by looking at these ascetics that they are true ascetics? And the Buddha says, you can only get to know a person's ethics by living with them. And we have never lived with these teachers that we hear. But the Buddha says very importantly, but only after a long time, not casually, only when attentive, not when inattentive, and only by the wise. You have to be a person who is wise enough, who knows what you are trying to process, and only not by the witless. And you can get to know a person's purity by dealing with them. You can get to know a person's resilience in times of trouble. You can get to know a person's wisdom by discussion. You need to engage in discussion with your own understanding to know exactly whether these teachers are truly enlightened. There's a trend now in the world that there are many people who call themselves as arahants. We monks never, get to know them because we just kind of don't do that. We don't all of a sudden decide to say we are arahants. This is not something that is encouraged by the Buddha. If you are an arahant, it's ego building to even say that.
If you are arahant, then you are not an arahant.
Exactly. If you do time. Are you true? Is this how an arahant behaves? So that is about the teachers that you really associate with. This is why we need to continuously you can't just know a person through YouTube only, or podcasts, or through a discussion. It requires a connection. It requires more learning and deep conversations. Only then you do know. When you travel with the person, you learn so much about that person. It's like that. So the spiritual journey is a journey, and it requires compassion, inquisitiveness, and there is so much to learn from every teacher. I respect these teachers so much. That is what I tried to mention in the beginning, that I was trying to explain things with the knowledge I gained from those teachers. They had more language than I did, so it helped me to learn from those teachers. But slowly I went toward the suttas, and I find there's more faith in me in the suttas that the Buddha taught, and I do see that Dhamma is immediately effective, sambittika, when you practice according to suttas. That's what I understood. So the person also mentioned enlightenment and non-Buddhist teachings. Enlightenment that were claimed by different teachers, it's okay to mention because the names are here. Eckhart Tolle, Rupert Spira, Adyashanti, and others. It is very, it may be true to them. And how do we, they can say it? How do we know what level of enlightenment they refer to? You can only just assume it, and there's no way to truly know. And it doesn't. We don't even need to know it. Whatever they teach, we take only the essence of it, and that is enough for us. And we show gratitude to them for that teaching. Their experiences and teachings may align with some aspects of Buddhist insight, but do they teach the kind of Buddhism that the Buddha wanted us to teach? The Buddhism should be teach Adi Kalyanam, Madhya Kalyanam, Pariyosana Kalyanam. It should be taught with the understanding that Dhamma, that is pure in the beginning, pure in the middle, pure in the end, which means pure in the beginning means there is sila, precepts introduced to a person for sense restraint. Pure in the middle is samadhi, stillness of the mind introduced to this person. And then panya, pure in the end is panya, complete development of wisdom. That is what these suttas have been, that's what this discussion has been trying to do, to open up these suttas and reveal to the world that they exist. We need to look at them. We need to be familiar with them. We need to sit and dwell on them and really establish ourselves in the Dhamma with the foundation precepts, with the foundation of samadhi, with the foundation of wisdom. So it is very essential that we become like the persons intended in the Kalama Sutta, be inquisitive, asking ourselves, are we purely based in our ethics? Are we purely based in our samadhi? Are we purely trying to base in our wisdom cultivation? So these practices altogether help us to find answers, maybe with deeper insights. The noble truths, 4 noble truths have been laid out clearly by the Buddha in first sermon and in Paccabanga Sutta, and the Noble Eightfold Path has been clearly laid out, which has all these features, the Sila, Samadhi, and Panya, and it systematically guides a person, practitioner, toward liberation. Dhamma is not lost as long as it is told with that framework, Sila, Samadhi, and Prajna framework. So it is that insight that helps us dissolve mental blocks and attachments, paving the way for deeper practices like metta and insight. So that is vipassana. So the process aligns with the broader Buddhist teaching, understanding of letting go, and include, and also letting go of the self-view. These are very crucial in liberation. However, loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity, they do naturally flow out from a person who is profoundly invested in the practice and is very pure in their intentions, bodily, mentally, and verbally. That kind of a person has a kind of loving kindness that is natural. It's very rare to find that kind of person. This is why we need to live with these people to find out. But we need to remember that Buddha, after becoming enlightened, he did meditation. Why did he do that? He said he often dwelt in emptiness, sunyata vihara, or he dwelt in pleasant abiding. What would that be? He perhaps wanted to radiate loving kindness to the entire world, or compassion to the entire world. So for it to naturally arise, maybe someone has to have a very, very profound experience of Dhamma and insight. Then only that person will be able to naturally focus on jhanas or sublime states and radiate it to the entire world. But even after being and becoming enlightened, the Buddha continued meditating. So your practice of metta, loving kindness, can take you all the way to becoming a non-returner. That means you become an anagami through the practice of loving kindness and abandoning anger completely and abandoning sensuality completely. That way you don't return to the sensual world or to the world of frustration anywhere whatsoever. So that is what may happen, but you still will continue radiating loving kindness after you will continue to meditate after the experience. That's what I tried to add into the question, into these responses. Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you, Bhante Kusana. I know you have been practicing under different teachers, and I know in Missouri, Bhante Vimbala Ramsey, who is a Sutravadin, and so you and now you're actually teaching since his normal he passed away some months back, and now you and some other teachers are there to teach. And also, you were with Ajahn Brahm in Sri Lanka, translating from English into Sinhala, and all those training sessions and the practices. You have listened to all these teachers, and what you're saying that from your the experiential knowledge, and that is also I think to completely drop the feeling of I, me, myself, it will require not only reading and listening to the Dhamma, but also the practicing Vipassana meditation. And maybe we can actually, if there's the second sutta, right? Anatta Lakkhana Sutta, where all these five disciples, after listening to the Four Noble Truths, Noble Eightfold Path, and listening to the explanation of the three forms of existence, how one by one, they are, their ego is being collapsed, letting go of the I, me, myself, coming into the realization and getting this absolute truth, and maybe in Buddhist tradition, maybe the non-dualistic mind is the mind which is completely free from defilements, right? So it is a realization of nirvana, the end of suffering. So that is the phrase, I think, yatha bhuta jnana dasana. So what I want to emphasize here, bring to your attention, those teachers like Osho, Krishnamurti, Eckhart Tolle. Let's say Eckhart Tolle, the Canadian spiritual teacher, who became so famous by publishing a book, The Power of Now. And that book, Power of Now, is although he's teaching in a modern way, what he's teaching is what Buddha taught. And and I have listened to some conversations or talks by Krishnamurti and also Rajneesh, and they said I remember them saying, there's no way that we can criticize the Buddha because and if you think about the people, the teachers who found the truth, who became awakened and is the Buddha. So we are no closer to him, his realization yet, but they are finding the meaning, the essence of the Dhamma taught by the Buddha. I said that's very important to keep in mind as we are discussing this. So thank you for sharing your insights. Now let's go to Venerable Shanta Sopana from Los Angeles. What's in your mind, Venerable Shanta Sopana?
Thank you very much, Venerable sirs. And, so actually, this is a very interesting topic today.
Yeah.
Because as we know nowadays, this meaning of life it's everywhere, and as we see in this human history, with the philosophers, scientists, and religious leaders, everywhere, all the time they talk about this topic. So actually, when it comes to this, all the other spiritual leaders mentioned before, that most of time they are trying to explain a situation, how you can transform yourself. So the transform means you are going from one place to another place. It's like a transport, port to another port. So transform. You are from this situation, you go to another situation. That situation maybe become more better. That whoever that mentioned that names, that any teacher never explain how to get out of the self. They explain always how to transform the self.
After this talk, okay,
So
Jazz?
that is very important thing when it comes to the Buddha's teaching, because all over the world nowadays, this is a very fancy word when it comes to meaning of life. Everybody look for meaning of life. But if you look from where it comes, because it mostly come from the Western philosophy. So the Western philosophy developed out of creation, and not only that, the Western philosophy created out of the perception they perceive from the outside world. They always look into outside, believing that is life, following their experience with the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and the mind. And that's why they are into far away, looking for a universe and the creators, things like that. But when it comes to the Eastern philosophy, what happened, rather than going towards the outside world, they went towards the inside, looking for what is this experience. So that is where the introspection comes. So, and when it comes to meaning of life, that's why most of the time people think there is a purpose within us already inbuilt, and there is a meaning within us. We should find that meaning. So why? Because we are created by some higher power, or maybe we are kind of like guided by some kind of higher source. So then the people try to navigate towards that and try to fulfill or meet the higher power or meet with the God, or kind of like get into their inbuilt purpose. But when it comes to Buddha's teaching, it's never tell about purpose of life. It's about purification of the mind. With our greed, hatred, and the delusion, if the person purify out of the mind, from that clarity, what the person experience, going to show you the reality of the world. Even the Buddha never taught to people, this is the reality of the world. Buddha saw the very nature, and the Buddha mentioned how you can purify the mind. Because if anybody purify the mind out of the greed, hatred, and the delusion, then that person definitely going to experience what is the reality. So when it comes to ourselves, that this everything happened, as Venerable Kusala mentioned, the mind is the forerunner. We experience everything because of the mind. But the mind depends on mental formations. Mental formations or the sanskara or the tankers or our past experience. People think into the future related with their past experience. But if our past experience depend on our greed, hatred, and the delusion, and what happened through that experience, we misunderstood the world. So we already misunderstood the world, and in that misunderstanding, how we can going to understand something in the future. So that's why Buddha mentioned, try to purify, go into yourself and see the greed, hatred, and the delusion. And if you are capable to get out of that greed, hatred, and the delusion, then you are capable to see how things come to be as they are. That's it. Once you see how things come to be as they are, and then you will understand what is the truth. But getting to that process in the beginning, as Venerable Kusala mentioned, that when we get into the vipassana in the very first level, one thing is we have to withdraw from our thinking mind. So that is why tranquility meditation. And we have to settle down, and we have to get into undisturbed mind and allow our mind to settle down. So once we have that, we are capable to see as it is. So with our eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind. So once we are capable to see things as it is, from that point, with the clear mind, without becoming biased to our past experience, without having any kind of anchors in us, without misunderstanding the world, we are capable to see things as it is and how things come to be as they are. Just imagine, in case that whatever come to our eye as experience. So as example, we see this cup, and if the person think, of course it is an appearance, I can see it, but we can see half of the cup. Other part of the cup we can't see. So, but what appear to me, if I take as the ultimate truth, from that point, I'm going to misunderstand. So then when it comes to our moment of experience, are we aware about our own experience rather than the outside experience? So that is why in Buddhism, basically it mentioned anybody can practice that. It is available to anybody. Go into yourself when you experience something rather than go towards the outside, rather than depending on outside situation, or rather than respond to, or rather than try to comparison with the outside, go into your inside and see what is the condition of the experiencer. If you have the greed, hatred, or the delusion, so that's mean what you experience, you cannot get into the truth. Because with the greed, hatred, and the delusion, what we experience, it's always going to become incomplete. In that incompletion, we always going to misunderstand something. So rather than looking for a meaning of life, if we are capable to look into ourselves and have the purification inside us from the greed, hatred, and the delusion, we are capable to understand what is the world. We have to remember what the Buddha mentioned, especially when it comes to the Ariyeshana Sutta and the Brahmajala Sutta. It's very clearly mentioned that what the Buddha looked, what King Kusala Gavesi, King Satya Gavesi, what is profitable to us. So rather than looking for the meaning, if the person start to look what is profitable for me, so when it comes to that profitable, it has a deeper meaning. But once the person capable to understand whatever that person do out of the bodily, verbally, mentally action, if the reactions bring more difficulties or the problems or the hard time, so that means that person cannot go towards the truth. So then it is better look into ourselves and see what I do out of my own intention or out of my own bodily, verbally, mentally action, is it take me to more better situation? Is it take me to, or me and the environment around me take to a better situation or more worse situation? If it is worse, then I have to understand that what I do is wrong. So then I have to change. Bringing that change to inside is a transformation in a certain way. I think that all the teachers most of time, Eckhart Tolle, that I used to follow this all the teachings regarding the Krishnamurti, and many times, and a lot of people ask about the Buddha from the Krishnamurti, and he gave some kind of the answers, and he never that mentioned himself that he agree with the Buddha. He never mentioned that. So then how we can tell the Krishnamurti whatever they told, or Eckhart Tolle whatever told, or other teachers, that most of the time they come to the media and they talk openly, and when they ask, when the audience ask about the Buddha, most of these teachers never tell directly, oh, I am telling what the Buddha told. They never tell that. So then what is the authority we have to tell, oh, he's telling about the Buddha? So that's why we have to look into that and see. Of course, people have different ideas, different methods, and different viewpoints regarding the world. But most of the time they're telling about the transformation. But when it comes to the Buddha, what the Buddha mentioned, complete purification. Through that purification, attain to the Nibbana. So in that process, rather than transformation, going towards the outside world, if we are capable to go inward and have the introspection and clear ourselves, we are capable to come to that point and experience the same thing, that exactly what is happening around us. I think that is the foundation of the Buddha, and nothing wrong with anybody, but still I think that of course it facilitates for people to maintain and kind of like a massage the head themselves through the time to maintain this world the way they want. But most of time, I think still it is very rare that we can find honestly people think about the humanity and help people to transform and people to get out of this year. Look at the world. We are almost in the beginning of another world war. And look at the world, how the world goes. They are built up their own mindset and they are built up their own followers. And we see most of time when they come to talk about others, they never most of time appreciate and accept others' points. They always say something else. And even Krishnamurti directly criticized the Osho many times. The way he wearing and the way he talk, and he openly discriminate him. And so like that. Then I was thinking, how we can tell Krishnamurti and the Oshos told the same thing. If they told the same thing, there cannot be division like that. So that's why when it comes to the Buddha's teaching, it is better we into ourselves and get out of our own greed, hatred, and the delusion and find the purification within us. I think that is more profitable for all of us rather than looking for a meaning and achieve to something in this outside world. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think Venerable Shanta Sopana, there's one phrase that you of yours I really love. It actually summarizes what we are talking about. Everybody is talking about transforming the self, but nobody is talking about the letting go of the self. So this non-dualistic nature of the mind is part of this. I think the way I understand or I see is this dropping or the letting go of this self with this absolute truth. Now, those who are talking about the dropping off I be myself, now is the question to be asked, have they understood this three forms of existence, tilakkhana? And and then, of course, maybe as this questioner is saying, they are talking about something, but that is in aligned with in different way the dhamma. But then, as you already mentioned, people talk about, but they don't talk about this. Are found this technique or this teaching, this doctrine is found in the Buddha Dhamma. So, but the person who has completely dropped the I be myself, that person may not have any superiority or inferiority, right? So that's something that we can be mindful of. So thank you so much because that actually touched my heart. Like people are talking about transforming the self, but they're not talking about the letting go of self. I think we need to reflect on this. Okay, next see Venerable Trudel. What's in your mind?
Thank you for having me back. I think I left something out, which was the meaning of life part, which is quite difficult and make people scratch their head. What is my purpose and what is the meaning in my life for you, for the particular you that you are? This actually brings back when I was training Novice Lee. And Novice Lee is a very intelligent Korean 21-year-old that, and every time when I'm like, can you please go get my robe, my sankati? And then he would play with me, which I allowed. And he would say, yes, I will go get your robe. So we go back and forth about the me, my, and the I. We call each other out. And it was a form of training of being a referee of the mind. And that's the threefold training trains you to be the referee of the mind so that you always catch yourself when you say, I am hot in this room. I want ice cream. I want that new car for me. So you got to make this fun or else it's going to be very dry studying the Dhamma. So I've meditated for 23 years since I was 14 years old. And even more intensely, the past, I don't know, maybe 7 years in Vipassana, and the remaining before that was Samatha with the Butto technique. So first thing is easy. To test out the dual thing and the non-dual thing, simple. You go to a teacher who have meditated for a while, who you believe reasonably that he has obviously destroyed his own ego. He does not identify with he, him. Hopefully you know how to discern based upon lengthy investigation on people like Ledi Sayadat, Ubakin, Ajahn Cha, Ajahn Mun, Ajahn Lee, and let the Theravadan teacher correct you. Come correct, and if you don't come correct, leave it up to us. Leave it up to us to direct and redirect you. It's a lot of fun. We can change you if you let us. So the most latest recent clinical case, which is literally yesterday, when the family allowed me in their house to fix, I had 2 days, 48 hours to fix an entire family of 4. And the mother is riddled with anxiety. And I said, what's your anxiety? One of them was, well, we're on our way to Hollywood. And the family doesn't even know how to get there with 3 cars in the driveway and 2 teenage boys, age 19, 20 something. And I'm like, why do you not know how to utilize the highway system? Well, we hang on to our money. We don't really go out a lot. But you have teenage boys here that don't. What? What do you mean? So I was puzzled by that because you have to explore life. Meaning in life, explore life. Number one, explore life. Meaning in life. Okay, don't hang on to money. Buy experiences, not things. We all know that. Please be enlightened to that. So I decided to direct my attention towards the mother who was in charge of the money, who controls the money, and I said, "What's your worries, madam?" And she says, I just want to hang on to my money and I don't want to cause my kids suffering. If I die, they need to be able to buy a coffin so they can bury me and all that good stuff that comes with Viet culture, tradition, heritage. And I said, that's wrong thinking, madam. I says, suffering can be good and sometimes good responsibility for honorable sons is a good thing. If they don't have money, because you're thinking ahead of time, you're trying to cease apprehension of the future. That's what anxiety is. If they don't have any money to bury you or buy a coffin for you, then they cremate you. If they don't have money to cremate you, the city will cremate you for free, the government. So she challenged me on that, and she says that's the very first time I ever heard that. But she challenged me on a level that she thought she knew the law. Everyone knows that I'm a social worker for 19 years, so I have to know pertinent resources in order to dispense the truth so that they can make an informed decision and anticipate, make critical decisions for their family. So I had fun with her. And then she realized that she was wrong. A lot of people in life are wrong. When they come to us, they miscalculated in life. And that's okay. I mean, you're supposed to make mistakes. I've made mistakes. So, in order to understand fully what we're doing today, what we have discussed today, go to a monastery. I said, sir, I just like to know what it feels like to let go, to be deconstructed of my ego. Because my whole life I thought that I was right. I'd rather be right than rather be happy. That's why I'm here. So I leave it up to you to guide me and tell me where to go, what to eat, how to sleep. Then the Theravadan teachers will tell you, come, my child, I will be a good burden to you, so you promise to me you will be a good burden to me. Tonight you sleep on the floor. Here is some rags that you're going to put around your body. If it's white, keep it clean. This will also serve as your pillow, right? So then you know that's how you get the best results out of this. And if forest monastery not there, then you go to the urban Buddhist monk because he's urban. He's right there, and we have multiple urban Buddhist monks here. So Bhante Sanata Vihari, Bhante Shanta Sobana, Hollywood monks. And then you have Florida monk, and then you have Canada monk. So, try it. I'm just here to tell you to try it. Taste the apple. Second thing, so I can yield the floor back to Bhante Kusala. Meaning of life. Enjoy life. Get out. Date. Eat. Drink. Sensual desire. Have at it. Go for it. Okay? Just don't go to the point and extent where you're going to get STDs. You get so drunk you have no idea which planet you're actually really on. Okay? So we want you to taste life. Meaning of life, enjoy life. To what extent? To the extent of the middle way. So you don't hurt yourself and hurt other people. Then you ask yourself, after I have experienced life reasonably in my 20s and approaching my 30s, do I know how to solve certain life's problems? What do I do when I have disturbing emotions? What do I do when I have greed and I want something and I can't get what I want? What happens to me when I get something that I don't want, like a flat tire? We've seen adults 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years old who throw a fit on, look, just go on YouTube. They throw a fit over small things, like a child. That is not maturity. That is not spiritual maturity. How do you know you've grown spiritually? Is how you respond to life. Then realize the meaning of life is that you are blessed based upon your karmic imprint, remainders of good karmic currency. That you were born a human. Part of being born a human, duality right here. Half of it is suffering, half of it is pleasure and joy and rapture. So therefore, knowing this half and half, the duality of life, you reel yourself back in, And if you like the way how life has been treating you, and if you want to come back one more time, then climb the ladder of sainthood to once returner. If you really like life, then just only hit Sotapan and stop there. Come back 7 more times paying bills for 70 years. Um, 3, 4 kids, and then pay child support on that. Seven, times seven. Everything just times seven. That wakes you up. So again, the meaning in life can be awesome. This lifetime, awesome. Blessed all of you who get to listen to all of the months. Blessed all of you who have eyes, ear, nose, and everything is working fine. And just don't play low too long and don't play low too hard. Thank you so much. I'd like to yield the floor back to Bante Kusala and my asking for forgiveness if any words here stepped outside of the line within the parameters of Dhamma.
It's an Anupupasika, the gradual training,
Yes.
right? This is something that you highlighted.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Bante Kusala.
Thank you, Bante. I do left out something before, and I wanted to bring that to complete what I said before. So in the Satta Jatila Sutta, we hear the 7 ascetics passing, and the Buddha says, to know a person's wisdom, we need to discuss it, and all that was said. And it's at the end of that King Kosala revealed to the Buddha that these 7 ascetics who passed by were actually his spies. They were not real ascetics. This is real. This hit me hard when I learned that someone can be so deceiving out there as an ascetic, even in front of a Buddha, and walk by like that, serving the king. That things like that happened at the time of the Buddha. And all these, the other thing I would mention is that different teachers that we mentioned today, including Osho, these teachers are popular in Sri Lanka. People read their books, especially those educated people who read in English. Or now they have Sinhalese translations, and with the evolution of ChatGPT and everything, there's endless ways to read and understand what these teachers have been trying to teach. So I believe one thing that they may have tried to do is to open up the Dhamma through some link, because we do know that the Dhamma, when it is open, it shines, it illuminates. So somehow or the other, from some way or the other, people seem to look for reality and more deeper understanding of reality. So that seems to be happening, and these teachers are contributing to it. And what they are doing is perhaps the development of what is already there. And that means if the Buddha did not use certain language at the time, but knowing that the Dhamma is timeless, and we may now be able to use certain words that are present now to describe the teachings that the Buddha tried to teach, and that's completely harmless because it aligns with the teachings that the Buddha taught. And regarding the loving kindness practice, the Buddha mentioned that in Mettani Sansasutta, Yani Katang Vastu Katang Anuchitam Parichitam Susumaratam. And so the way that the English translation goes is that the heart, by amongst 11 advantages are to be expected from release of heart by familiarizing oneself with thoughts of loving kindness, by the cultivation of loving kindness, constantly increasing these thoughts, by regarding loving kindness as a vehicle of expression and also as something to be treasured, by living in conformity with these thoughts, by putting these ideas into practice, and by establishing them. So one of the 11 benefits is that a person is able to sleep well. And we know that the Buddha mentioned several times that he sleeps very well among those who sleep very well. He's one of those foremost among those who sleep very well. So that means he had this continued flow of loving kindness. coming out from his heart is the kind of realization he had. So that happened, and that I believe aligns with what the Buddha tried to teach. And now things have also slightly changed in the Indian world, that Vishnu, I think Buddha is seen in their sculpture, 10 avatars of Vishnu. So that is how things change. But that is not how Sri Lankans and Theravada Buddhists and Buddhists in general understand the Buddha. Buddha as the historical Buddha, he appeared in the world and he taught the Dhamma. And the Buddha himself said there will be more Buddhas in the future. He's not the only one. There have been more Buddhas in the past. So that is where we stand with that kind of claim and thinking. So these are my 5 cents. I hope I did not distract our monks too much.
No, it's actually a practical piece of wisdom.
Another thing, Bante, is that what is enlightenment? It's radhakaya, dosakaya, mohakaya, elimination of lust, hatred, and delusion. It's not only about dissolving ego. There is more about purifying your heart through elimination of hate, greed, hatred, and delusion. So there is more work to be done. This is why we emphasize sila, samadhi, and prajna. Virtues, stillness of mind, and wisdom cultivation. So we shouldn't focus too much only on the beginner level. That is the elimination of the wrong view of the self. That is only like preschool, perhaps, but it's really a major step, because the Buddha said it is better than attainment of Sotapatti, stream dinner, so on. That's the word he mentioned or she mentioned. It's better than becoming a universal monarch or becoming the ruler of heavens. So this is a huge step, but it's only in the elimination of ego, collapsing of ego, or understanding the true nature of self is actually the first stage of enlightenment. There are 3 more stages, and that is then you qualify to be an enlightened person. So that's all I would say.
Thank you. And actually, there's a beautiful conversation, dialogue going on in our Zoom chat. I feel like reading out those. This is amazing. Actually, the question, today's question was asked by our Dhamma friend Mahendra, and so he's also here. And Bhattaji, do you have something to say, or shall I read?
That's only thing I want to say, Bante, is that this is only the introduction. Whole discussion is the only introduction for the topic. So I would suggest to have this topic again next time with the same explanation or whatever, so you know how to make it. So because the subject is so vast and widespread, and the things that Bante said is really important, and I think this is only the introduction for the topic. So take another week for the same topic.
Okay, so let's say thank you, and I think we have come to the end of today's discussion. But if you don't mind, I think for the benefit of our friends who are watching this program on Facebook or YouTube Live, and they don't see this beautiful conversation taking place between you, Bante Kusala, and the Dhamma friend. So let me read out, and then we will wind this up. So Bante J writes, in the topic of duality, it seems we talk about 2 things separate from the other. What are they? One is the perception of existence of I, me, they, us. The other is and non-existence of anything existence. when we say that there is something exists, it cannot be accepted because we can't really point such things exist because they always change. Then when we say things do not exist, it is not absolute truth because we see things arise and moving. This is why the Buddha said that there is nothing exists as we think. We create this duality for us. It is wrong perception. And but the J continues, when perception is going to be wrong, we think we exist or non exist. But then the perception is right. We do not fall into any sides, but keep ourselves away from such conclusions. And Mahendra writes, or replies to the what Bantaje says, Venerable Bantes, thank you, Bantaje, for your comment. If a person is capable of not keeping the mind on any object outside or recollection from memory, animitta, isn't that person able to eliminate suffering, feeling of I, me, by stopping the cycle of dependent or arising? Imasming satidang hoti, imasming asatidang nahoti. Even Buddha's advice to Bahya is similar. Your views are appreciated. The Bhante Kusala writes, what is enlightenment? Ragakaya, Dosakaya, Mohakaya, ending of lust, hatred, and delusion. Bhante says, yes, indeed. Mahendra says, fully agree. Can't we realize it by being inside, reducing sankhara, manasikara for any object? I mean, practicing this all the time. Bhante replies to Mahendra, I sense some craving there. It is gradual trading with Sila, Samadhi, and Panya. Mahendra writes, agree, I appreciate your wisdom. Bhante writes, true. If we can keep our mind in such discipline, when nimittas come, we can train our mind to limit those seen, hearing, tasting, etc. in the basic level without putting icing on them. Then we see animitta in mind as a source, which is the arise of emptiness. Mahendra says, thanks, I'm with it. Bhante continues, as you rightly said, there you have seen Paticcasamuppada with Imasmin Sati. When we take the sense object as mind, Imasmin Sati, there is suffering idang hoti. When we do not take sense objects as mind, Imasmin Sati, no suffering arises idang nahoti. Gita says sadhu sadhu, and Mahendra says removing I is the most important step, isn't it? That Bhante Kusala says is the beginning step. And Mahendra continues, once you remove I, it automatically reduces craving, hate, and also delusion. Gita says, thank you to all venerables for sharing the most profound Dhamma with all of us, sadhu sadhu. And this guy, Dhruv Southward, says, wonderful topic. So this was a beautiful conversation, dialogue we had as we were talking, and I just felt compelled to share this with everyone. So I'm very grateful to all of you for coming together to discuss this topic. But for your reference, I think in the Majjhima Nikaya, there's a sutra called Chula Sunyata Sutta, where actually Buddha practices the meditation on emptiness and step by step how you attain emptiness. Is a gradual practice. Maybe one in coming days we can discuss that as well. And this is just for your reference. Maybe you can read that sutta. And that sutta actually, Mahendra, if you want to read that sutta explains the meaning of the life and the non-duality of the mind and the absolute truth, and how to attain all this. So let us conclude today's discussion. And since we don't have anyone to recite the Ovada Patimokkha verses, I would like to recite the Ovada Patimokkha verses together with all of you. Sabba papassa akaranam kusalassa upasampada sachitta pariyodapada today we have concluded our 83rd bi-weekly Sutta discussion. I'm very grateful for your presence, your insights, your knowledge. Thank you so much for enlightening our audience with the Dhamma and bringing hope, light and hope into their life through this Dhamma discussion. And I'm also very grateful to our Dhamma
St.
friends who
Petersburg,
are here
Florida.
on the Zoom platform and who watch this program live on Facebook and YouTube. So I'm wishing you nothing but may all the blessings of the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha be with you for your good health and longevity. May Deva, celestial beings, continue to protect and guard all of you with the divine blessings for your health and safety. Sabbe Satta, Bhavantu Sukhitatma. May all sentient beings be well, happy, and peaceful. And also, we would like to radiate our loving kindness, send out the blessings, positive energies to the people in Bangladesh as they are going through this political upheaval, unrest, agitation. The Prime Minister has fled, resigned, and the extremists are coming into being. I was told so. Minorities living in fear. Let us send out metta to them for the peace and harmony in that country. So, Sabbe Satta Bhavantu Sukhitatma. May all sentient beings be well, happy, and peaceful. With this loving thought in mind, let us conclude today's discussion. I'm hoping to see you all in 2 weeks' time. Until then, be well and good night from Toronto, Canada. Bye-bye.
Okay, I'm done with that. Thank you all for asking questions. And Jim asked an hour ago from Cambodia. So again, I think I'm gonna refire this back up tonight. Again, I just came back from California, 6 a.m. this morning, so I'm still a little dazed, recovering from a very intense 48 hours with the family. So I may reappear tonight again, but thank you all for joining, and thank you for being patient, holding your questions. Please visit my YouTube. That's where we can connect. When you sent that link, I actually freaked out because I was in the middle of an intense 48-hour family intervention. But, oh my God, Siri, what is wrong with you? I'm available this Friday at 2 p.m. if you like. This phone is ridiculous. Oh, thank goodness for multiple phones, because either something wrong with my English or I looked at my schedule. You sent the link early previously, and I kind of freaked out because I was in the middle of intense family intervention. But this Friday, 2 p.m. works great if that is good for you. Period. So many competing priorities. Okay, all right. I need to take this off YouTube.